Welcome to the Influencer's Journey. This is where we explore the transformative power of mindset and the stories behind leaders who have shaped their own path to remarkable success. Each week, we embark on a journey to uncover the beliefs, habits, and inner strength required to not just be seen, but felt as a true person of influence.
Have you ever been in a place where you know you need to do something, but for some reason, laundry, dishes just seem instantly important? Or you have a big project that makes you a little nervous and you choose to leave it to the last minute. Our topic today is self-doubt, the hidden cost of procrastination and what you can do about it. I am your host, Suzan Hart, and I am so excited you joined us today. Now, if you're just joining us, oh my goodness, do we have a conversation for you? We are going to dive into this thing that probably every one of us knows called procrastination. So if you're listening, put a comment, put your hand up just for yourself to see it, to acknowledge if you have been known to procrastinate. We're going to talk a little bit about why that happens, what it looks like, and some tips and tools that you can begin to use to get past it. Now, oh my goodness, I am sitting down with someone I would like to say is joy. This woman is, in my world, pure joy. So the speaker I have the privilege to introduce is an author, a speaker, a certified life and Enneagram coach. She's the host of a podcast, and she's also known for the ability to build signature systems and curriculum. So you might want to put that in your back pocket. She's a devoted wife of 19 years and the mom of 3 remarkable miracle kiddos. She's on a mission, though, to empower Christian women entrepreneurs to shed the feeling of the imposter syndrome. You know, that feeling of not being enough, fear of stepping out of your realm, inability to focus on what you want, and just having the confidence and courage to take action. She is up to helping us get past that. She wants to transform that, get this, entrepreneurs into courageousepreneurs. Oh, that is good, Heather. What I love about this woman is her fun side. I've had the opportunity to just enjoy, fun, and play with her. She describes herself as Disney World meets the Mandalorian nerd with nerd duct tape. I'm gonna have to ask her more about that.
I'm the Mandalorian nerd duct taped together in movie quotes.
Please help me welcome the courageous coach and my friend, Heather Bunch.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. You're the best. I have such fun with you.
Oh,
you are amazing. I'm so honored to be here with you.
I am so excited to sit down with you. And I always remember when you were in the speaker program and when you found your voice and your power and your light and joy.
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful transformation, because I think what happened for you is you became play on stage.
Yeah, it's a great way to describe it. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So before we jump in, because you know I have questions.
Yes.
I want to really set the context for everyone listening, because one of the things I'm really curious about is the stories that birth businesses, the stories that inspire individuals to say, this is what I am called to do. This is my role, my purpose in this season. And so what birthed the Courageous Coach?
I love calling myself the Courageous Coach because that is definitely not where I started. I love to call myself a professional hider. Like, I got the domain on it, professionalhider.com. It's a good site. Should check it out. I was that kid that was just fearful all the time. I wasn't necessarily an anxious kid. I was just afraid to take action and to step out. I was the middle child. I felt invisible, and I just did what everybody needed me to do is what I did. That's what I defaulted to, because I was too afraid to even dream on my own, to take my own action, to own my own story, to own my own life. And I hit a point where I was just struggling. I'd worked for a church for multiple years. That's all I've done. Most of my adult life was work for churches. And, to be a good little churchgoer girl, you work in admin positions, right? Somewhere in there, I finally got a dream I'm like, I'm going to write Bible studies. I'm going to do that. And so I started a blog, and, it was a little scary, but it was okay because nobody was really reading it. So it wasn't too bad. And then I just hit this point where I was like, I was complaining to my husband. I was expressing, but I was really complaining to my husband about how I really felt like my life was useless. Like just doing all this admin stuff. I work on a database. I just do what people, but I don't feel fulfilled. And I did not feel like I was running my race, like I was living a dream. I was, you hear about, super achievers and super influencers, and they're doing these things and they're making it happen. And that wasn't me. And my husband said, he goes, you'd make a great life coach. He goes, you're already actually doing that. People are always coming to you for advice. Let me introduce you to Lisa Jenkins. And so he made an introduction to Lisa Jenkins, and I joined her life coaching program. And I was so terrified, so terrified. This was my first, let me step out into another world besides the church world I grew up in. But I did the thing. I would show up and I did the work and I did the role play, even though it was time. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing or saying, and I was petrified, but I did it. I took action, and it was like an 8-month program. I graduated. I'm like, yes, I did it. This is awesome. I even did some discovery calls and got like a client to pay me money to coach them. I was like, I'm living the dream. And then I had this idea. I'm like, all right, I only know so many people. I should probably go networking, because they always say, that's a great way to get new clients, right? You go out, you network. My husband was doing a ton of networking at the time. And in fact, he won this award in 2018. This is 2018. Top 100 St. Louisans to know. Okay. That's how much he was networking. Wow. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go networking. I'm going to take him with me, right? Because I ain't doing this alone. It's too scary. And so we set the date. We're going to go to this. It was a mastermind. They call it a mastermind, but it was a networking event. It was a monthly networking event they went to, and he usually went to it. He knew all the people. And so I get up that morning, and I'm excited, but I'm nervous because I'm like, this is new. I've never done this before. And new for Heather. Change is scary for Heather. Okay. It could be good change, and it's still scary for me.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I get up and I start doing the thinking, the thinking. And I'm like, okay, what was that thing Bob was talking to me about? It was like frog form, something. And then I started going through, what does the F stand for? Was that family or friends? Was that, and so it was this framework. I'm supposed to ask people questions, and because I always would be, when I get afraid, I forget what I'm going to say, like go blank. And so I'm like, oh gosh, I can't even. And then I start thinking, I don't know my elevator pitch. You're supposed to be like, people are going to ask you, what do you do? And I'll be like, I'm a new life coach with no experience. You want to hire me? Like, I didn't know what to say. And, I don't know who my ideal client is. There's so many things I don't know. And I started panicking. Like, And then my body started like panicking along with me. Like my cheeks started to get hot and my ears, like it literally was like flames on the side of my head. And I start stripping off my sweatshirt. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Am I sick? And I really was like, what in the world? And I'm worried and I'm thinking and then I'm overthinking. And then my body's like going, what are you doing to me? And then boom, down I went.
Oh,
I fainted.
you fainted.
I fainted. I fainted before my first networking event. I am a rock star. Thank you very much. And so my husband finds me on the floor with my pants half down because I was on the toilet freaking out as this was all going on. So if that's not embarrassing enough. And he finds me there and he's like, oh my gosh, Heather, are you okay? And I'm like, waking up going, what just happened? What? And then I realized I fainted before my first networking event. And so he helps me to the bed. And the bad thing about Heather fainting, this is something that when I was a kid, I would get overheated and I would faint. I get sick, like really sick, where you need the bucket kind of sick. And so I was out the whole day. I missed the networking event. Bob and I were even, my husband and I were going to shoot a video series for a new course I was going to do for our church. You know, I was going to teach on joy. I was going to teach on joy. And here I am in bed, missed the whole networking event. Well, that series of fainting started happening every month or two for like over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, I started getting the aha of this is not like, oh, Heather, you're sick, or oh, Heather, you got overheated. It was fear. Like I got the revelation. It was like, I'm literally fainting out of fear.
Wow.
And it hit a point. There's always the moment in our lives where we have a line in the sand. I had that moment of a line in the sand where you're like, no more.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to happen anymore. That moment for me was in 2019, June of 2019, with Lethea Owens, Women of Audacious Faith Covenant Partner Retreat. And you were there, Suzan.
I was.
We were at one of the volunteers' house, and it was 3 days of just Lethea. She was pouring into us all this business goodness and branding. And I sat there for 3 days in silence. Like I was so intimidated. Like when we were all hanging out eating, I'd talk like I'm good. But when we were in business mode, I was like, I don't belong here. What in the, look at all these successful women and they're doing these things and I'm nowhere near this. I'm still working full time at the church trying to like do this entrepreneur thing on the side. And those were the thoughts that were going through my head. And it literally caused my body to freeze where I just sat there. And again, Heather gets afraid, mine goes blank. And we hit a moment where I remember we were talking about fathers and I finally got vulnerable on that last day and I was crying and I was in tears and I was like, I really struggle with like this part of the relationship part. And I just remember you guys saying, we are going to show you we love you. I was like, all right, well, let me tuck that away in my back pocket for later.
And let me test it.
Yeah. So I make it through the 3 days because literally my whole goal that 3 days, don't faint. Heather, don't faint. Because up until that point, I had always fainted at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never fainted in public. It was always at home. And so we have pizza. We're out on Jackie's beautiful, gorgeous back porch. And y'all are doing this mastermind call. And you're just sitting there, just spilling out all this brilliance and goodness. And it's just pouring out of you guys. And then one of you, and I don't remember which one it was, but y'all went, come here, Heather, why don't you share? And I was like, heck no. I just spent 3 days in silence. So what am I going to say? Like, and in that moment, I started panicking again. And I was like, this is all internally. And it was like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. Like I had this like urge, like I have to get out of here. And so I got up to leave, except I didn't get up. I fainted. And in that moment, I fainted and I woke up with all of you around me praying for me. And Heather, are you okay? And I start coming to, and I was like, oh my God, I just peed on myself. Like it was like this involuntary, like, you know, when your body just does stuff and you're like, I don't know what the heck just happened, but that just happened. And like, dear, are you kidding me? Like if this wasn't bad enough. And so you guys just were so amazing. And you walked me to you know, my suitcase, and I get my stuff out and I go to change, and then I'm changing. And then remember how I told you what happens when I faint and I get sick? Yeah. So that hit me, except I couldn't flip around fast enough for the toilet. So I threw up in Jackie's sink. And then I spent the entire night lying on the couch with a bucket with you, Suzanne, at my side, like rubbing on me, going, Heather, just let go of the shame. Let go of the shame. And that was it. Like in that moment, I was like, that's what I'm doing. I'm holding this shame, this failure. And it kept me bound from being able to be who I'm called to be and to be my real self. Like to show up fully, Heather. You know, we joke about the fun side, Disney World, Mandalorian, and duct tape together in movie quotes. That doesn't come out when I'm bound up, right? It only comes out when I can overcome that fear. And so that was the line in the sand where I went, no more. I have got to figure this out. And so I went into like research mode of like, I'm going to figure this out. I prayed. I'm like, give me wisdom, God. And I just started studying because I knew there was a link between my fear and the fainting. And I finally found it when it was Dr. Carolyn Leaf in her book, Switch on Your Brain. And she talked about the mind controls your brain and the brain controls your body.
Yeah.
The mind controls your brain and the brain controls your body. And so my mind, what was it doing in those moments of fear? Oh my God, what are you going to do? You don't know what to do. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You don't remember this, you know? And then my mind's like, my mind's telling my brain, oh my gosh, Heather, this is too much for Heather. She can't handle this. Like, you got to figure something out. And so my brain went, oh, I got you. I got you. So it goes to my body and says, hey, this is too much for Heather. She can't handle this. And so my body went, you know, I got you. I know what to do. We're just going to faint. Because again, when Heather faints, she gets weak, she gets sick, she's out the rest of her day. She doesn't have to do the scary thing. So that's my story. And what I love about it is that moment of learning how to overcome, okay? Because it wasn't a one and done. It was like over the next year, it was like every single day fighting it out, but using the tools that I was learning on myself to overcome this fear. And now my mess has become my message. So I thought I was going to be a life coach to help people live their dreams. And I do. But what I realized is all the stuff we talk about with self-doubt, procrastination, overthinking, busyness. I got to get the laundry done, like you said, right? All of a sudden you got to clean your house. It's all fear. It's all based in fear. And fear's whole job is just to try to keep you safe. In those moments, it was just trying to keep me safe. Heather, if you're here, if you're in bed, you won't have to do that scary thing. But nothing of significance happened in my comfort zone, in that safe zone. I had to step out and I had to learn to overcome the fear and push myself out of that. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So were you guys ready for that? Were you ready for that story? Because we could just end here. We could just end the conversation here. However, what we're going to do is we're going to dissect it. We're going to dive into it because You know, this woman, I believe, is brilliant, and she has some gifts for you and some nuggets for you, and we're going to spend some time doing that. So as you jump on, if you're just jumping on, please let us know who you are. Let us know where on the planet you're joining us from. Tell us what you do. And comment about what is your battle with finding courage. How has fear stopped you? Light up the comment sections and let us know what brought you out today. What is it about this topic that intrigued you? If you have a friend and some of what Heather has talked about is like, oh, I know that person, tap them on the shoulder and say, you got to come listen. And if they're not available, tell them #replay and they got to listen, right?
Yeah.
And we're just going to have this beautiful conversation. If you're listening to the recording, please #replay and get in the conversation. Act like you're listening to it live. Comment, let us know who you are. Light up the comment section. We will definitely go back and read and comment on what you guys have to say. Now, this is going to be an interesting interview, because I think no matter how courageous we are, there's another level of courage that we are required to find. And that means that all of us will find ourselves procrastinating at some point in time, even after we get past it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So Heather, first of all, thank you for being so transparent. Thank you for being so vulnerable. And you know, it's such a joy to hear the story, because I remember that moment with you on the couch and just having these just really intimate conversations with you about, you know, what was going on, and just being able to be present and reassure you and know. And I remember when I left, I said, Heather, I can't wait until you just break through and break, you know, you just step into all that greatness and all that brilliance. And so it's wonderful to hear you. It's wonderful to see it. And it's wonderful to experience it. So are you guys ready? Are you ready? So if you are joining us, welcome back to the Influencer's Journey Show. Our topic today is self-doubt, the hidden cost of procrastination and what to do with it. I am Suzan Hart, and I am sitting down with the beautiful Heather Bunch. And so let's start, you know, just talking about a little bit about what prevents us from taking action. And I love how you talked about the fear of failure, that fear of clear direction, that fear of not knowing what to do, not knowing the how. I know for myself, it was a lot of not knowing the how originally, and then being a recovering perfectionist who, like you, carried a lot of shame from past experiences, is not wanting to experience that shame again.
Yeah.
Perfection, perfection, perfection. And I'm not going to do something until I know I can nail it. And oftentimes that moment passes by that opportunity passes by time I feel comfortable. So we
I've been there. I know what you're talking about, girl.
I'm ready now. And it's like, oh, what do you mean it's gone?
Yeah, it's a little slow on the trigger.
Yeah. So let's start with this question. What are the underlying thoughts and emotions that often trigger procrastination? And how do those feelings hold you back? And I know you touched a bit on the story, but I want to highlight it.
Yeah. So, what's interesting is a lot of my procrastination is a bodily response. Okay. So I love to think of ourselves as we have three brains, right? So we have our head, which is our thoughts, we have our heart, that's our feelings. We also have our gut. Our gut is a third brain. And that is what they call, it's the action part of us. Okay. And so I am very gut oriented in the way I live my world. That's my natural place to be. And so a lot of times when I feel, when I'm procrastinating, it shows up as I'm doing something. I'm numbing out on a game. I get tired. Sometimes I get tired where I'm like, I am just so sleepy. I can't do that thing that I'm supposed to do. I'm
Isn't
too
it
tired.
amazing?
I'm just going to have to take a little nap.
Isn't that
Right?
amazing how that
Yes,
happens?
it is. It is. And so for me, now that I realize that, now I didn't always realize that. This something I had to wake up to, was like, where does fear show up in me? And so I realize it shows up in my body. Some people, again, it'll show up in their thoughts. Like, people that are like, oh, I'm just an overthinker. Like, that's going to be where it's showing up in your head, right? You're overthinking. Some people are over feeling,
Yeah.
where you get all the emotions. And sometimes I get that too, where I start getting those worry, panicky things,
Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff like that. Or sometimes I've gotten angry at, like, I don't even know what. And then when I get down to it, I'm like, I'm in fear because I'm about to do this new scary thing. I've got a speaking engagement coming up. Like, I've got a this that's due. I've got, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so for me, I have to just start asking myself questions. I'm very conscious of it now because I know I deal with fear. And so I know when I procrastinate or I overthink, or, I'm numbing, like if I'm playing a game in the middle of the day.
Mhm.
Why are you doing that, Heather? What's going on? Now, I
Yeah.
do this with self-compassion, okay, which I think is very important. I don't think we grow and improve by beating up on ourselves.
Mhm.
So whatever I'm telling you to do, for you watching, please be compassionate and loving towards yourself. Because again, fear is just trying to keep you safe. That's all it's trying to do. And so you're responding to try to keep yourself safe. But again, nothing of significance happens in your comfort zone. So just love yourself through this process and you'll grow much faster. So I just start asking myself questions. Hey, Heather, I noticed you're tired out of nowhere, but you really did get a pretty good night's sleep. What's going on? I
Hmm.
just get curious.
You know
Oh,
what?
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when I started paying attention to mine, one of the interesting things I realized. So I'm fight. I tell people I fight, and then
Mm-hmm.
I freeze, and freeze looks like I'm done. Like
Oh,
I'm
got it.
done.
Yeah.
So what I realized for myself is that fight, when I'm in fear, is busyness. I
Mm-hmm.
am busy. So I
Yes.
will clean the house. I will do laundry. So the person at the top of the show I was describing was Suzanne.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will do
Love it.
laundry. I'll clean the house. I'll polish
Yeah.
the floor. I'll dust. I'll go garden. I don't garden. I'll do all these things and they're important in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
However, what's really interesting is my gut is kicking in and it's got this small voice going,
Mm. Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. Oh, yeah, but I'll get to that later. I got time.
Right.
No, no, no,
Right.
no, no. Off I go. Oh, I'll get to that later. I got this. And
Yes.
then what I realized, and while I'm doing the thing, my mind is racing. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
emotions.
Yep.
And and as I've gotten wiser, Heather, I
Yeah.
will literally watch myself have conversations about ways I could just talk myself out of it, avoid it. Maybe I should call and
Yeah.
say, I'm too busy.
I'm
I
laughing
will,
because I've done that one.
and so when I became present, it was almost like watching myself in this experience
Mm-hmm.
and and actually when I pull back is actually being very amused with
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne. Like, look at
Mm.
you.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
at you. And I think,
Interesting.
yeah. And I think the thing that you said that is so key, because oftentimes when people listen to these shows or they listen to coaches or whatever, there's this whole concept that you have to get over this thing.
Mhm.
And it's not about getting over it, it's about understanding it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
about
It's working with it.
right.
Like,
And loving yourself through, because I remind
mhm.
myself that this response that I am going through and present through has served me.
Mhm.
And there's moments where it's right on time, right on the moment. It's exactly what I need to do. And my learn was distinguishing between the two,
That's good.
right?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
this really what a good thing right now? Or
Mhm.
am I in pure procrastination and avoidance?
Right.
And when I began
Yep.
to learn to distinguish it without judgment, because judgment put me
Yes.
right in shame.
Right. Right. That doesn't help
Um,
anybody.
and so it's such a really cool thing. And so you're saying to everyone, the first thing is to listen to your physical being.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so for me, I look at what am I doing, right? My
Mhm.
actions. But again, somebody else could be if you're more feeling oriented, like you might be the kind of person that goes straight to your emotions and you
Mhm.
start overreacting. You're snapping at people more or something like that. That's an indicator something else is going on,
Yeah.
right? And that's the time to get curious. Or you're stuck in the overthinking. You know what I mean? You just because you might be head oriented. And so that's where you go first. So you might be all the thoughts are reeling. That is your signal. Warning, Will
Yeah.
Robinson. Like, let's take a look at this. What is going on? What's really going on? What am I afraid of? Is what I usually ask myself.
Mhm.
Why am I procrastinating? I love Toyota's 5 levels of why, where they'll go down, why is this happening? And then they'll get the answer to that. And then they'll ask, well, why is that? And usually for me, if I go down, I'm usually avoiding my biggest core fear is disconnection with people.
Mhm.
Whatever is going to happen when I'm doing something, if I put a new piece of work out, if I put a video out, if I'm, my book that came out, is somebody gonna like it? Am I gonna upset somebody? Am I gonna say so, it's gonna cause disconnection? Like that's usually my friction point.
Yeah.
But it's different for everybody. It
Mhm.
might be the failure. It might be we've talked about fear of success before, things
Mhm.
like that. It might be I'm going to look incompetent. If I put my work out there, I'm going to look incompetent. Or like you talked about perfectionism, you know. What if somebody is like, "Hey, that was misspelled,
Oh, there.
Suzanne. What do do you know that line? It was too far over and it's not even." Like somebody's gonna
Say
say
something. And
that.
and I think what, for all of us, it triggers that thing that we're mortified since childhood,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so we procrastinate to protect ourselves from that thing that happened that we had no control over as a
Yep.
child,
Yep.
and we're mortified by it. It is
Yeah.
amazing, the power of our mind.
Oh God, it's so powerful. So powerful. What I love though is when we're in procrastination, that's our mind working against us.
Mhm.
But we can reverse engineer it so we can get our mind working for us. I like to say getting our imagination working for us
Yeah,
instead of against us.
I say the exact same thing. So first of all, so the first step you're talking about is getting present to what's going on.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm here and I'm present to what's going on. I'm checking my mind, I'm checking my thoughts, I'm checking my emotions. I guess the question I want to explore is, I know for myself and many people I work with, nothing moves until we connect or I connect to the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even if I say I'm afraid, because fears are like a high level fear,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a high level emotion. It's common. We are afraid, we're sad, we're happy.
Right. Right.
And so until I peel back and go below the fear and I catch, ooh, shame,
Mm-hmm.
and then I catch, oh, disconnection, and then I catch
Mm-hmm.
these things. So part of what I'm hearing you say, and I'd love for you to explore a little bit more, is it's not just going, oh, I'm afraid, because I think that's where people go, oh, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But that's not really enough to get us moving, is it?
No, but it is the first step.
It is
We got to
definitely the first
acknowledge
step.
it, right?
Right. So how do we then get from I'm afraid to, ooh, I don't want to look bad,
Mhm.
right? I'm afraid of failing because failure means I'm not smart enough, good enough.
Yeah.
People will see me as stupid. And then when people see me as stupid, they won't want to be around me. And it's like
Right.
this whole, so
Yeah.
do we kind of talk ourselves through all that conversation?
I think so. And I think once you kind of, so here's the thing, I'm an Enneagram coach. And one of the reasons I love the Enneagram is I got into it not to be a coach, but because of how it changed me.
Mm.
And so what the Enneagram did for me is it revealed my motivation. It told me why I do what I do. In essence, my core fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my cheat code to get to my core fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But anybody can get to their core fear. And it really is as simple as why. Why am I not doing this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you get the answer to that. Okay, maybe it's a blog post you need to put out or a Facebook Live. Facebook Lives. I have been doing a 30-day challenge, by the way.
I've been watching.
Facebook Live. Oh, yay. Every day. And it's not for my audience. It's for me. Because for some reason, I have been afraid to do Facebook Lives. Now, I'm not sure why. I love being on camera. I love talking. I love speaking. So all the normal things are like, it doesn't make sense. What are you so afraid of? And so, it's like, I was like, all right, well, I gotta just do this, right? So you do need to know why. You can go down through the levels of why. So why am I afraid of Facebook Lives? What's the big deal? Well, one, that my normal response might be, oh, well, they take a lot of time, right? I'm gonna have to plan a bunch. I'm gonna have to do this. Well, why is that an issue? I'm like, well, it's not really an issue because I went through Suzanne's program on how to speak. And so I know how to create a framework to make it easier, right? So why would this be such a big deal? Why is it, you did podcasts before with sticky notes. Like I've literally, so that's not really an issue. So then I'm like, well, why is that really a problem? And again, for me, social media going down when I keep digging, it is Heather. What if you say something and someone's not going to like it and they're going to be mad at you?
And it's going to be seen by everybody. Their mad is going to be seen by, and it feels like
let everybody know. And then you're going to be exposed and then nobody's going to like you. For me, it really comes down to disconnection with people. I am so, if I have got to keep peace and harmony. Otherwise I will be disconnected from people. That's what it always comes down to. Every time I keep asking why. Now, again, for someone else, my husband, for him, it's failure. It's failure.
Mm-hmm.
But when he goes down, why failure is if I fail, I'm not worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, different for some people. They get down to it and they're like, if they see me as vulnerable, they're going to think I'm weak.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, there's some people I love about, I call them the helpers. Okay. In the Enneagram, they'd be called the helpers and they help everybody. They are so good at helping everybody and they're helping everybody else, but they're not getting their own work done. They're procrastinating on their own work, but they got everybody else stuff done, right? Why? When they get down to it, it's because they are afraid that if they don't help, they won't be liked and appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it is for them.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying? If I'm doing my own stuff, nobody's liking and appreciating that. But if I do somebody else's stuff.
Absolutely. And you know what's really interesting is when we look at it, fear is a sign that we may not be in control. Like going to a place where we may not be in control.
Yes.
And for many of us, when we are not in control, the thing that we feel most vulnerable about is going to show up. So I know
Yeah.
as you're talking, I know I'm a recovering perfectionist,
Mm-hmm.
and perfection for me was fitting in when I was younger. So I come to Canada, I'm a young Black little girl, grew up in an all-white community. So
Right.
I'm already a sore
You're
thumb,
already not fitting
sticking out.
in. Yeah.
Right. And so the thing was to not be teased and to not be bullied is to fit in,
Yes,
right?
yes.
To
Yeah.
be, well, I'm the chameleon. I can fit, Heather. Give me a place I
Mhm.
can fit in.
Girl, I get you.
And so it was about fitting in and fitting in perfectly. Because if I'm perfect and I fit in perfectly, then I won't experience. So my thing is disconnection. But I say I won't be alone. Because when I came to Canada, my experience,
Yeah.
I'm suddenly alone. Nobody
Yeah,
looks like
yeah.
me. No one talks like me. I am alone.
Mhm.
And why don't I want to be alone? Because I want to be connected to people. So as soon as I step into fear, it is I can't control my need to be perfect.
Mhm.
When I go beyond what I know, so my biggest thing was surrendering to, I just don't know and I'll be okay. I'll survive
I'm
it.
not gonna die.
And I think it was the stepping through that had me challenge if I was enough.
Mhm.
Can I fail and still be enough? Can I put something out
Wow.
there and have people say something about it and still be enough?
Good.
And I think what you're talking about when you talk about courage, it's the courage to explore what happens when we go beyond that thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So good. Yes, yes. Yeah.
that's
Oh,
powerful.
I love that. That is powerful. It is powerful. This is a life-changing thing that we are talking about. Because I know you listening have a dream, you have a purpose, you have a calling. And you may have made a certain level of success and you're hitting a limit, you're hitting a wall. And what we're talking about today, this is a breakthrough moment for you.
Yeah.
You can take this and go to the next level and break through. And then what I love about this, Suzan, is when we learn these things, is like, do I ever not feel fear? I feel fear all the time because I'm always doing something new that I've never done before. And I'm stepping out and I'm continually doing new things. Now I got tools in my tool belt that I can move past the fear and still take action. Get out of procrastination and still take action, no matter what I feel like.
Absolutely. And I think what's really powerful about what you're sharing, because one of the things that I really had to get present to, if I was up to a big life and a bold life and a life that excited me, and I'm saying that intentionally, like a life that excited me, like a juicy, exciting life.
Yes.
What I became present to was the acceptance that I would continuously be in a state of fear.
Yes. Yes. That's it. That's it. That's it
I would
right
be
there.
continuously in a state of fear. And
Yes.
so now I tell myself when fear emerges, I'm like, oh, well, you're going in the right direction, Suzan.
That's right.
And
Yes. It's confirmation.
it's confirmation
You're doing the
I'm
thing.
going in the right direction and doing the thing. And it's may
Yes.
sound silly, but it's so true because I want everybody listening to really get, because what we're in a conversation about is so powerful, is that it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It only goes away to the extent that what I used to fear yesterday, I've expanded, so now I'm comfortable.
Yes. Yes. Your comfort zone is expanded.
So I'm comfortable. But tomorrow, I got something else I'm going after. And fear goes, oh, you got to break through me, girl.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And my vision, Heather, is I look at it as this this invisible wall that's surrounding me, and I'm just trucking along going, ooh, I think I'm gonna go do this thing. And I bump it and I hit it. And I'm like, oh shoot. Who put that there? Let me go do dishes.
Right? Yes, yes.
So
Sorry,
maybe
this book is so
go-
interesting.
right,
I need to read about this more.
right. Because I bump up against the edge of me, my fear, and I get pushed back in. And it's only when I'm able to understand, as you said, and listen to the signs and understand what's going on, that I go, oh, okay, we got to go break through the wall of fear.
Yep.
And what I realize is when I find courage, and I want to define courage in a moment, the wall dissipates. It's almost like it's like, and so let's talk a little bit about courage, the courageous coach. Let's talk a little bit about courage, because I think it's a word that we throw around. We don't spend a lot of time looking at it.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what courage is and kind of what it feels like.
Okay. So what we've just talked about really tees up what courage is. Now, this is Heather's definition, but I think most people agree. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid.
Yeah.
It means you're doing the scary thing anyways. It means you're taking action even while you're afraid. And so what courage feels like is exactly like what we've been talking about. You're afraid. It feels like fear, like your body's freaking out, your heart's going, your mind is going, like it could hit you in any number of ways. But you know that you would push through that wall, like you were talking about, Suzan, when you are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When all the senses are saying, what the heck are you doing? I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. Can we just go, read a good book, watch some Dancing with the Stars, and I'll put some laundry on while we're doing it so I feel productive. Like that's what it wants to do, right? But it is the key, the indicator that we're in courage when we're feeling that. If I'm not feeling uncomfortable, I'm like, have I pushed myself lately?
Yeah.
Have I gotten too comfortable? Am I doing fully that thing that's in my heart to do? Because I'm feeling comfortable now. And I think we always need to be in this, like you were talking about the wall. I think that's a beautiful example, right? You break through that wall, but now that scary I'm gonna die zone has now become our comfort zone. But we got to keep pushing forward till we hit another wall. And then we got to break through that and it's that continually getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And know that you can take action even when you feel all the emotions, all the thoughts, all the bodily responses, the cheeks, if you get the flaming cheeks like I do and the ears get hot, I just put a fan on and just keep going. But know that it's normal and that, I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to do. I am being courageous. Like, you tell yourself that. Like, that's what I do. I tell myself, Heather, you're being courageous.
So do I. And I want to expand it a little bit because this is so juicy, Heather. So juicy. Thank you. Because as I have stepped into courage, what came up for me, and I remember the first time I spoke at Audacious Faith, I talked about this. I said, I used to think I was a woman of faith until I started stepping out.
In faith.
And then I realized Oh no, I was a woman of rituals and conversations.
Mm,
And what I realized was that in order to muster courage, there must be faith.
mm-hmm.
And I had to believe in the possibility of what I had not experienced yet.
That's good.
And know that because I asked, I was going to receive. Now, receive didn't mean I was going to receive it the minute I wanted it.
Nope.
Receive didn't even mean it was going to come how I thought it was going to look. What I
Yeah.
realized was I was going to receive when I stepped out and stayed out,
Mm-hmm.
stepped beyond what was comfortable and stayed out there
And stayed out there. Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm here and I'm ready to receive.
Yeah.
Grow me so I can receive this thing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens when you step out. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm trusting,
Mhm.
grow
Mhm.
me so that
Yeah.
I can be present and receive. And so for me, it was this whole thing about, oh, that's what faith is.
Mhm.
Like it's a
So
muscle
good. It
attached.
is. I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, it is a muscle. Courage is a muscle. And the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets.
It gets. Wow.
But
Okay.
just like a muscle, if you keep doing the same routine, it will stagnate and it'll stop growing. What do you got to
Absolutely.
do? You got to add more weight.
Yeah.
You got to push it again,
More
right?
things to
You
put
got to
you
do
in
more stuff. You got to step out of your comfort zone more. You got to, do whatever, put the new program out or, I'm doing the Facebook lives. Like that's pushing myself, right?
Mhm.
And doing something new. Sometimes I'll do something new on purpose to push myself,
Abs- abs-
adding more weight.
Absolutely. And I think that is the whole purpose of goals.
Mhm.
I am very goal oriented, and every 90 days I'm like, okay, what am I focusing on? And I do it for my physical being, my
Mhm.
health, wellness, and fitness. I do it for my financials. I do it for my business. I do it, and people are like, why? I go, because without it, I'm not going to expand. I need something
Yeah.
that demands that I become more.
Mhm.
That says, okay, girl, we are going to stretch you, but I know you're up to this. I need that in my world in order to keep expanding and for
Yeah.
things to stay exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the 6 human needs is the need for variety.
Yeah.
So, that is a need that we have.
And and
So,
and what's really beautiful about what you said is when I was reading on emotions, um, there was a section and it said that the body loves to be stimulated, right, by
mhm.
emotion.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what I got present to, Heather, is that we love emotion. And if we're not giving ourselves emotions that stretch us and excite us and put us through that fear, we're going to
Mhm.
still create emotions of anger, frustration,
Yeah.
depression, negativity. And so our body loves these shifts
Mhm.
in state. So be
Yeah.
intentional about the state you're putting it in.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Because it's gonna go to its emotional home. What is it
Right.
used to? It's like, do you know when you see those people and you're like, man, they are a drama queen. Like there is drama going on in their life all the time. It's because that's the state they're used to. So things get good and they're like, something's wrong. And then they go back to drama, right? So they conjure up drama somehow, right?
And I think
But
that
we can be intentional, like you were
right
saying.
about the
And
shift of state.
yes.
And when you start to shift that state often enough, that home begins to change.
Mhm.
I will say that home begins to change until you decide to grow, and then home comes back. It's like, hey, you're comfortable here. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, I'm growing again. 'Cause there she is.
That's it. That's it. Oh man.
So, oh my gosh, this is so good. I could talk to you forever, my dear.
Dude, I gotta tell you one thing though. One of the tools, okay, that because we've been talking about emotion and sometimes we're like we won't do things out of like emotion. Like, I don't like how that feels, so therefore I'm not going to do that thing. I will legitimately put myself in situations on purpose to do that, to put myself in those emotional states where I'm like, I don't like this. And one of them was, I've been doing some improv class.
Oh, love it. Love
Okay,
it.
which has really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And so the gentleman that does these classes also does a musical improv. And I went, oh, I'm not doing musical improv. Heather doesn't sing. I am not musical. And then I went, dang it. No, I have to do it. Because I just said, I will never
do the thing.
I'm the courageous coach. I have to make myself do it. So I literally went to the musical improv and I'm like, this wasn't so bad. I survived. It went pretty well.
Absolutely.
Now, what is it the thing that I want to do all the time? No, but I learned things. I stretched myself and I was like, I could do this. See, we're so much stronger than we think we are.
Absolutely. So you brought up a question. And I'm going to talk about emotions. And one of the things that I talk through with my clients is, are your emotions making a decision for you, or are you consciously making a decision?
Yeah.
And oftentimes our automatic state of emotion will decide. Right? That home will decide for us.
Yes.
And then we go outside and you say, well, home's not deciding, I'm going to do the thing. And I'm going to put myself in that really uncomfortable place. How do you, or what recommendations can you give someone as they're stepping from home, because home feels good, to this new place to manage the physicality of the state that they're about to put themselves in? I know what I know what I have to do. I'd love to hear what.
Yeah. So I actually have a framework that I use called the courageous cycle.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so would it be okay if I walk you through that? Okay. So this is what I do, and I created this because this is what I used to avoid fainting. Because anytime when I was going through that process of like overcoming the fainting, it literally was like an every minute battle for me. Because I could walk into a room and I would have feelings of like the heart racing, my head would get fuzzy, like those feelings, and then the fear and the emotions of, oh my gosh, is it going to happen again? Is it going to happen again? And so I would use this process to help regulate my body and my emotions.
Before you start, for anyone listening, pen and paper. I'm just giving you some clues because you're going to get some good stuff. So grab pen and paper and write down the gift that Heather's about to give you, or give us all.
All right. So the first step is to tune in. Now we've talked about this actually when we started. We were talking about the awareness, right? And I love to think about it. Again, we are 3 brains: head, heart, gut. So I like to tune into each of those to see what's going on.
Okay.
All right. So what am I thinking? Like, what thoughts are going through my head? So I tune into that. And again, all with no judgment, self-compassion, grace. This is just, you're just being curious, a little detective, got your little magnifying glass and you're just checking things out, right? You're just seeing what's going on. So what am I thinking? Okay. And then your emotions, your heart, like, all right, what am I feeling? Am I feeling shame? Am I, what are the emotions that are coming up in me? And one of them for me was shame, like the shame of, oh my gosh, this happened again. And I always do this. And, then I'm going to have to tell somebody why I can't show up for the thing because I'm sick. And, and then the shame that goes with that. And then I tune in, you got to tune into your gut. Okay. So again, your action center, what is going on? What am I doing? Okay. So thinking, feeling, doing. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I doing? Just tune into that. Then you're going to turn it down. So it's like turning down the dial. Okay. So when we get into fear, it's like when you're cranking up the music and it's loud and it's hard to hear, and someone's having a conversation with you, but the music's too loud and you're like, what are you? I can't hear you. So you got to turn down the dial. So in order to do that, again, head, heart, gut. So I am going to turn down the thoughts. Now, I can't just get rid of a thought by just going, I'm not going to think about that, right? I'm sure you've talked about this. You got to replace it.
Yes, absolutely.
So what am I going to replace that thought with? What am I going to replace? We talk about self-doubt, right? I'm doubting myself right now. Well, what can I replace that with? One of the things I replaced it with was I'm stronger than I think. That's one of my thoughts. I use a lot of scripture. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I also grabbed onto my mind controls my brain and my brain controls my body that I mentioned, Dr. Carolyn Leaf. That was a turn down for me in my mind, to remind myself, my mind is controlling my brain and my brain is controlling my body. So turn down in your mind and then in your heart. Okay. So God gave us this incredible thing called a vagus nerve. And I know you know all about it, but for those of you that may not, we have a nerve that goes all the way from our head through our heart to our gut. Amazing how it works that way. It's all three brains. And so when you can, I will physically hold my hand on my heart. Because usually when I'm in fear like that, I'll have physical like heart palpitate, I can, I feel it like the heart starts going, I hold my hand on my heart. And then I'm going to turn down the body response because everybody has a different body response, right? Mine, again, I get a lot of cheek flushes, ears, heart rate going. Sometimes I'll get a pain in my chest. Like it could show up in different ways. So I'm going to turn down, and so what I do is I just hold my hand on my heart. And again, I've already tuned in, so I know what's going on. And I'm going to start breathing into that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I do, and there's different ways you can do it. There's different techniques, but I breathe, in for 4, hold it for a second, and then I breathe out for 8. Okay. So I breathe out longer than I breathe in. And I just do that until it literally starts to turn down the emotion. It starts to turn down the body responses. It's like a magic thing. It's really,
It's true.
and
It's
like even touching yourself of just like, Heather, it's gonna be okay. And which is the next step. And it's speak up. So it's tune in, turn down. So I'm gonna turn down that volume, right? I'm gonna speak up. I'm gonna speak up I'm gonna speak those thoughts, like my turn down thoughts. I just don't keep them here. I speak them out my mouth.
Yeah,
there is power when you speak them out. And I literally would tell myself, Heather, you are stronger than you think. You can do this. God has called you to this. Your mind controls your brain and your brain controls your body. And I would just speak those things out. I would continue to speak up. I would speak up for my heart. I mean, think about it. My dreams. What is it that I'm called to do and the people's lives that are going to be changed because I have stepped out of my comfort zone, right? How am I going to feel? I speak up for that. And in my body, like what am I going to be doing?
Yeah.
Right? Living out my dreams when I can push myself past this thing I'm afraid to do. What am I going to be doing? What stages am I going to be on? And I just speak out for that. Speak up for myself, right? Speak up for my dreams and my calling, what I'm called to do. And then what that does is that leads me to step 4, and that's step out. Now it's time to just do it.
Yeah.
Even if all the feelings have not gone away, that's okay. It does not matter. You can do whatever it is that you're called to do and still feel like crap.
What is so beautiful about what you're talking about in the psychology of motivation, it says that there's an optimal place of functioning, right? Of stimulation for function. So when we're in fear, that means our emotional state, our motivation we're vibrating way too high.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you talk about turning it down, you're talking about turning it
Mm.
down and bringing it into the range where it's still present, but
Yes.
you can move because you're not overstimulated,
Yeah.
right?
In counseling, they'll call it's the zone of tolerance.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
this area where you're above your comfort zone, but you can still
The
tolerate it.
function, right? And
Right.
because if you tune it down too low, you're not gonna move.
Right. Yeah, no, we want to
So
get into action.
So you got to put it in this beautiful space where you're like, okay, I'm good now. I'm breathing. I can do the do. That's such a great technique. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
As we close, if you were to give everyone listening an anchor,
Mm.
something that they can hold on to remind them that one, fear is normal, and two, they got this.
Yes.
Because they're up to big, massive things in the world.
Yes.
What would you leave them with?
Anchor. Man, I go back to my why. Why am I doing this? Why am I bothering to work so hard to overcome this fear and still do it afraid and be courageous? And why? Like I keep that in front of me.
Mhm.
I was that kid that because I grew up in church and I would sit in church and there's this parable. And if you haven't heard it, it's basically there's three people, they're given some talents, they're supposed to go out and, be good stewards of the talents, and two go out and they double it and do a great job. And the last one buries it because they're afraid. And I would sit in church and I would cry because I knew I was that person burying their talent.
Mhm.
And so that is an anchor that's an anchor for me of like, I am no longer that person. I am that person that goes out and they double it. And why? Because I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. And it's not that God's going to love me any less if I buried my talent. He'd still love me because nothing can separate me from the love of God. But I would miss out on all the people's lives that I had the opportunity to touch. And they would miss out on what I have to bring to the table.
Mhm.
And then because their lives are changed, they're going to reach people that I can't reach. And you know what I mean? It's this beautiful cycle, this circle of awesomeness, as Stu McLaren calls it. And, because lives change lives, that change lives, that change lives, that change lives. And so I go back to why. Why am I doing this? Why is it worth it to
Mhm.
go through this pain? Because it's painful. It's painful. But it's worth it. It's so worth it. Because
Absolutely.
baby, you're worth it.
Oh, well said. Well said. So everyone, we have been sitting down with the beautiful Heather Bunch, the courageous coach, and you heard it from her. Wow. I'm going to invite you to take a piece of what she said, even if it's like, I got to tune into the three places in me. Take one thing and begin to implement it. Then take another thing and begin to implement it. Because we're all worth it. And I think it is, we all are here with a purpose, right? And they say die empty. For me, it is, I don't want to die with all this inside me. I want to know that I did everything I could to pour in whatever way I am meant to pour. And so use what she's given you and given us to say, okay, what's next? What is next? So if for everyone that comes on, I think of a quote that kind of will go with what we're talking about. And so this is the one I said: procrastination is not a time thief, but a dream stealer. The moment you take action, you reclaim your power and set your dreams in motion.
So good. So good.
We have been sitting down with Heather Bunch. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And for everyone listening, my name is Suzan Hart, and until we meet again, please know you are brilliant. Know you are oh so very special. And we do this work because the world is waiting for your unique gift. This has been the Influencer's Journey Show. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Influencer's Journey. Join us every week as we continue to explore the stories behind the leaders who inspire us all. Remember, the first person you lead is yourself, and influence is a byproduct of inspired action. Until next time, know you are brilliant, know you are special, and the world is waiting for your unique gift. This is the Influencer's Journey.